Hello and welcome to this part 3 video for this little series of questions around awakening and enlightenment and reality. And this third part, let me just read the question from the questioner, and that will help set us up for what we're going to talk about today. So a longer one today. And this was on the back of having talked about how the fundamental reality, the fundamental nature of who we are, is permanent and unchanging. So the questioner asked, why does reality have to be something permanent, non-changing, etc.? Why can't the changing world I see be the only reality that exists? And hence, why should I put in efforts to get awakened if I don't believe in that? Oh, sorry, question mark. If I don't believe in that, I'll never find motivation to unearth that. So how do I know that there is actually something underlying and not mere speculation? So that last part we spoke to a little bit in that second video. So if you've not watched that, go back and watch that one. That piece around how do I know there is actually something underlying and not mere speculations. We spoke about this, the real simplicity of the fact that our fundamental nature, and therefore the fundamental nature of reality, is awareness. So it's not something that needs to be believed in. It's not speculation. When we check for ourselves and we explore, there's no disputing it. Nobody's ever come up with a different answer. So that kind of, and hence again, it doesn't therefore need belief. It's just known, it's recognized, and it's known that this is how it's always been. This is who I've always been. Hence why we will often say, nobody actually needs to awaken. Nobody awaken. Partly because there is no separate self here to awaken, but equally because that which I am is and always has been fully awakened. All we do is clear up the confusions that make it seem like that's not so. But let's go to the beginning of this question. Why does reality have to be something permanent, non-changing, etc.? Why can't the changing world I see be the only reality that exists? And hence, why should I put in efforts to get awakened? So, again, touching a little bit on what we said last time, and actually what I talked about a bit in the first video as well, what we come to see through awakening is that there's not this changing world out here isn't separate from the fundamental reality. There isn't this changing world here and then another reality over here that's different, that's not changing. It's that there's this changing world we see, and its reality is the permanent, non-changing fact of awareness. And as I say, what we come to see is that they're not even separate. There's not a separate changing bunch of stuff here and then a separate awareness here. I'm kind of visually talking about that to just illustrate it, to point towards it. But it's all one thing. Nobody's found a boundary between this fundamental reality and all the changing content. There's not separate. It's one thing. This whole changing reality is appearing as it is awareness appearing as this changing world. It's not separate. There's not separate things. So therefore all is included. We're not throwing away this changing world of content. We're not throwing away this changing experience, which gets called reality. But if we're to define reality as real, this is not real. All this is transient and changeable and coming and going, and millions of perspectives on this, all of which are also changing. That's all there, and that doesn't have to be got rid of. How could we ever get rid of it? It's not being dismissed, it's not being excluded. That is absolutely included because its nature is the very same awareness that we find when we explore within ourselves to our own fundamental nature, our own fundamental reality. So I guess that it's not so much that why does reality have to be something permanent and unchanging? It doesn't have to be at all. It just is. It just is. That's what we find when we inquire, when we explore, the reality is just found to be permanent and unchanging. And the really cool thing about that is that it's the space of clarity, of security, of safety, of sure-footedness, of groundedness. It's the feeling of all the things we've been looking for in this changing content we find are available here in my essential nature, in our essential nature. And so when the question asks, why should I put in efforts to get awakened? Why can't the changing world I see be the only reality? Well, it could be, but what we find is that, yeah, I say it could be if everything I've just said wasn't true. So if the changing reality, the changing world, I'm not going to keep calling it reality because it's not reality. If the changing world was all there was, if that was everything there was available to us, and which is what most people in the world believe, the result of that is increasing mental health concerns, it's increasing conflict, it's increasing problems, because when we try to secure ourselves in that which is inherently insecure, we suffer. Indeed, that's what brings most people to the exploration. So when the question is asking about why should I put in efforts, what's the point? Why would there be motivation to unearth this permanent, unchanging reality? The motivation often comes from, not always, but often comes from the fact we've tried to find contentment, security, safety, well-being. We've tried to find it out here in the world. We've been sent in all sorts of different directions to different people and jobs and possibilities and learning opportunities and money growth opportunities, and we've tried to find it, and we've tried and we've tried and we've tried. And then at some point we find it's not working. We find this content-based world just cannot provide that which we're looking for. It cannot reliably provide, and reliably is an important word here, it cannot reliably provide the happiness, contentment, security, peacefulness, feelings of safety, feelings of belonging. It cannot reliably provide that because it is not reliable, because it is always in constant permanent change and flux and transience and coming and going. So it literally cannot provide that which we're looking for. And so when we reach a point where we recognize that, that's when we begin, generally, that's when we begin to have the motivation to inquire and go, so what else is going on? This can't be it. Like, I've been told that, and I just know in myself that there is a happier, easier, more peaceful, more loving, more fun, more inclusive, more creative. I know those things are available. So why have I not found it? What is it that I'm missing? What else is going on? What else have I not yet discovered? And that questioning, that curiosity is the beginning of that movement into awakening for most people. I'm saying not for everybody, because sometimes people will just have a spontaneous awakening for no reason. Sometimes people will move into the exploration purely out of a curiosity and out of a desire to understand. But for the vast majority of people that I'm aware of, there's a dissatisfaction with the world and with all the lessons, all the stories we've picked up about where we should find happiness and how happy we should be when we find it, or where we should be able to find security and how secure we should feel when we found it. And we find that it's not true. So most people, when they find that it's not true, that's when they begin to explore and say, okay, so what else is going on? Brilliant that occurs, because then that's the beginning of the movement into the recognition of who we really are, into awakening, because then we find what is permanent and unchanging. Then we find all of what we've been looking for in the content of the world. We find the happiness, contentment, peacefulness, security, safety, belonging, love. We find it all in the nature of who we are. And then as we deepen in our awakening, we stop looking to the world to provide that which we are. And hence why you experience people who, either knowingly or not, who are awakened, they are grounded. They have a sense of peace. They have a sense of okayness that's just emanates from them. And then that in you, which is the same, recognizes that. And that in itself may also begin your awakening process. So this question of why does reality have to be something permanent and non-changing? Really, it doesn't have to be, but it is when we look and inquire into it and understand it. And the motivation, it either appears or it doesn't. But often the motivation to explore it comes from the fact we realize that this unchanging world can't provide all of what we've been promised it can. It can't provide this reliable happiness. It can't provide reliable security or safety. It can't provide reliable peacefulness. Oh my goodness, not at all. And it's amazing to stop trying to expect it to, because then we find ourselves and we find everything we've been looking for in the world. So thank you so much for watching this 3-part series. I hope you've enjoyed it. I look forward to reading your own questions that come on the back of this. Much love and take care.